And a great evening, and I am thrilled to see so many of you out this evening to have what I would consider a necessary conversation about the state of our schools and what we're doing, the progress that we've made, as well as the challenges that are before us. So first, I'd like to thank you for being here. Before I get started, I would like to introduce or welcome the members of the Nash-Rocky Mount Public Schools School Board who are with us this evening. If you just wave your hand so that they will see you, please. Let's welcome them. I see that we have one of our commissioners here with us this evening. Mr. Davis is with us. We'll give him a hand. And I believe we have some other guests that I'll introduce later on this evening. Tonight is our second State of the Schools address for our school system. And tonight our goals are very simple. We want to talk with you about or share with you the progress that we've made towards meeting our strategic goals. We have a very detailed strategic plan that directs the work of the school system and directs the work that we do for and with children every single day. We want to celebrate those district accomplishments, and then we want to talk about our challenges and areas identified for improvement as we move forward. And so then we'll, as you get to visit the showcase this evening, you'll also get to see actual examples of the work that we're doing. Tonight, we will talk about both the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we are honest about all of those things because the first steps you have to take towards improvement is recognizing where you are and what's necessary to get to that next place. And so all of our work is lined up with the vision that we've established for our district, that at the end of the experiences that students have with us, they should have options. They should be provided with rigorous opportunities in every single classroom, every single day, so that when they're finished with us, they can make choices or they have choices for future vocations, future passions as they move through life. And so when we're finished with them, I say often that it's not about what the celebration that we will hold on graduation day. It's about the very next day or that following Monday, what are they able to do? And so we want to say that. And so we try to provide those kinds of opportunities for them on a daily basis. And we have to move from things in classrooms being activities to moving those students more towards experiences. Experiences actually change dynamics. Activities can start and finish and they're over. But when our students do things like you see kids here in this picture involved in our Ask the Soup program over in our TV studio, they're putting their hands on it. They're actually producing a television show. They produce a lot of those shows and it starts in the classroom and it ends in the studio. So that's an experience as opposed to an activity because they can take those skills and actually transfer those into other things. And so we have 6 very clear strategic areas of focus, and one is high student achievement. We have to continue focusing on improving the academic outcomes of our kids, making sure our schools are safe, making sure that we hire the very best people to visit, not to visit, but to stand in front of every single classroom. It is important that we work very hard to make sure we have the absolute best people standing in front of our students every day. 21st century tools. It's amazing how fast the world is changing. And you know, we have to prepare kids for a future that we cannot even define today. And most importantly, engagement of our community and transparency in everything that we do. And so what are the numbers? When you look at us, our number of employees, we have 1,700 employees, 1,732. A few years ago, we had nearly 2,300 employees. We are now down to 17. We're no longer the largest employer. I believe we're the 3rd, or we may even have slipped to 4th largest employer in the community. We have 954 full-time teachers, 253 teacher assistants. Half of those, nearly half are in our general K classrooms. The other half are in our special ed classrooms and special needs classrooms. We have most of our teachers with advanced degrees, and we still continue to have more and more teachers take advantage of the National Board certification that is the gold standard for teachers and their training. We operate with a budget just under $150 million. We spend about $8,000 per student. That's all told. That's our state, local, and federal dollars. The beginning salary this year is $33,800 with the increase from the state plus the increase in the local supplement, which we'll talk about later, as well as so the average teacher package here is about $41,000 for a brand new teacher coming in out of school. We operate 200 school buses. We are the largest transportation provider in the county. We run 153 runs per day, 13,000 miles, and about 10,000 students ride our buses out of the 16,000. We're the largest restaurant as well. We serve over 17,000 meals, and our food service program continues to operate as a profitable enterprise in our district. When you look at our budget, 76% of that budget, our money, and the slides are, I think there's a duplicate slide here, but there should be a revenue slide that matches this, where the bulk of our 64% of our money comes from the state. Approximately 18 to 19% comes from the local. The remaining comes from federal and/or grants. And so when you look at where we actually spend our money, it is about 76% of it is tied up. When you look at instructional services and system-wide support, those are people. Most of those are people. So nearly 80%, 90% of our money is tied up in people and those who provide direct support to schools. And you'll see the rest is non-programmed and then capital. And so when we look at our strategic priorities, how are we doing in each of these areas? And so I'm going to hit those 6, and I've been given exactly 28 minutes to get this done. And so I'm going to move that along. And so what's going on? Right now, we are still in the process of embracing the new normal. And that new normal we thought was getting more normal until some things happened this summer that will tell us that another new normal is on the way. We thought we had our standards and curriculum lined up, but we learned now that there's a whole new wave of redoing the curriculum. So we've got teachers now who are getting used to a group of standards who now have to wait to see what the next layer will be, and we're told there will be a large shift in the standards. With new standards are new resources, and so we've got teachers having to get used to new resources in a new dynamic. New assessments. We just got an email today. The assessments are mostly online. I think I saw an email today where even more of them will be provided online than ever before, even the end of the year items. New evaluation systems for our teachers. Federal and local mandates continue. And then there's a transient workforce. We have individuals who are now more mobile. We're seeing a shift in the teaching profession in terms of the number of individuals actually going into education has declined dramatically. So it makes the ability to move from place to place far more transient. We have, as part of the work, we have embraced an instructional model that we have stayed focused on, and that's really working to move kids from understanding clearly that what you do in the classroom should translate to what you should be able to do in the real world. And so that's moving from acquisition to adaptation and application, and we want them to be able to see that everything that they do in school matters. So that the days of just doing it just because it's just something that my teacher wants me to do is just no longer acceptable. And so when we look at our student performance, we see that there are, in fact, very clear opportunities for celebration, and then we have some challenges. And so here are some of the celebrations. One, we saw an improvement in the proficiencies on every single assessment. Every single one we improved. 60% of our elementary schools made growth. We continue to close the gap between our performance and the state. And you'll see on the challenge side, we still have somewhat room to go, but we've got to move faster to close that gap. But the good news is historically we have closed that gap. And then we've seen improvements on all of those assessments that are part of our accountability system. Again, I want to say that the major challenge is that while we've increased in proficiencies, we still lag the state. And that's one of those issues we have been dealing with for year after year. And so we're trying to, I've been meeting with principals today, we're having deep conversations about what is it that we can do to accelerate the closing of that gap. Because it's no longer acceptable just to be better than the local individual districts around us. We've got to begin the process of preparing to compete at the larger level. That means that we have to be more intentional and more honest about those things that are our challenges. And so we've got to do that and continue aligning resources to new standards. Every time those standards shift, we have to, again, realign the work that's happening in classrooms and the resources that our teachers are using every day. We have to be able to do that, and it makes it a whole lot easier for us to do. So when we look at the end-of-grade test, and I'm going to go through these quickly, these will be available to you. But when you look at across the board, we improved the proficiencies from last year to this year approximately 7 points. When you look across the board, it's no surprise that third grade we saw the largest jump. Read to Achieve has been a major challenge, but there was laser-like focus on third grade reading. When we look at all reading across the district, and so it separates out now reading and math, you'll see the same thing where there's an 8-point increase in our proficiencies, and across the board you'll see at each grade level. You don't see the kind of growth in our middle schools, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade that you're seeing at the elementary, and that's an area that we're going to look at very closely. When you look at the first year of Read to Achieve, we had 70% of our kids meet proficiency on the reading assessment. That meant that 895 out of 1,200 of those kids met it through the normal process. The others, we're having to provide transitional classes and support for them as they kind of grow and learn their reading. There are classes that we will have to delay their promotion to 4th grade, but we have a system in place to do that, and our elementary teachers are working to make that happen. When we look at math, you see the same thing. A 5-point increase in proficiencies. Science, we saw some big jumps in proficiency, but again, I want to say we lag the state, and that's concerning to me. While we're getting better, we've got to get better faster. When you look at in the course tests at the high school level, we saw an increase in the combined. We still struggle in the area of biology, and had a good conversation with our high school principals today about the work that's going on there and the conversations they're having with teachers. When you look at our English 2, we are working in both of those areas to continue to make the strides. Literacy is a function that we're focusing on across the district. There should be writing in every single content area. And so we know that will make the difference in the long run for our students. When you look at the ACT, it improved by 4 percentage points, and the SAT improved by 3. Now, the SAT is no longer the gold standard for us. The ACT is now the college readiness indicator that we use. And so I'm recognizing that now SAT is more by choice. It's a choice exam. It's no longer the required exam. So we've been shifting for the past 2 years to ACT. Most of the colleges will begin accepting that. They accept both. But with the new curriculum, the new standards, the shift now is to the ACT and not the SAT. That's a big shift for us because most of us were SAT takers, and that became the gold standard for how we decided who went to college. It's still being used, but the universities now are using more and more the ACTs. Work keys, that's the standard that says kids are ready for the workforce, or that they have the requisite skills to go. A lot of our industry, and even here at the community college, they administer this assessment. That rose by 7 percentage points to 66.8. And this is now an accountability indicator for us, meaning that we're judged on how many kids score silver on the work keys. And so With that, we then begin preparing kids for the next layer. Our graduation rate continues to grow. We are assessed now on two indicators. That's our 4-year graduation rate and our 5-year. And so our 4-year graduation rate this year is right at 77%. Trailed off just a tad, but when you look at the trend continues in 7 years. The last 7 years, it's grown by 15.5%. That's been a steady growth, and right now our 5-year graduation indicator is at 81%, which means that even when kids don't make it in their 4 years, the next year we're still getting a lot of those kids through. That's part of the work that matters in terms of moving kids forward, that they have a chance. Not every kid comes to school at 5 years old ready, so not every kid at 12th grade is going to be able to walk, but we have a mechanism in place to make sure that those kids can, in fact, finish, and they finish strong. When you look at student scholarships, we had 1,100 students graduate this year. 918 of those students have indicated their intent to go on to secondary education, either at a 2-year college, a technical college, or a 4-year university, or continue their education somehow. Some are going into culinary schools and other places. So that's about 82% of those kids who are going to continue their education. That doesn't surprise me when you go back and look at the work keys and the intense work that we're doing in our career and technical programs, and making the connection that we were able to leave high school and be fine. This next generation, they're going to need some type of additional training or education after they leave high school. And so when you look at that, scholarship dollars for this class was about $11 million. And that's we've tripled that over the past 3 years. 3 years ago, we were at about $4 million in scholarship. Our students this year got over $11 million. Students here at the early college garnered $1 million, and that's a very small class. So they're really trying to access those things that would help them continue their education. When you look at our dropout statistics, we continue to catch those students before they leave. If you look at several years ago, you saw that we were losing at a peak 400 students a year. We're down. We've cut that in half. Our dropout rate now is about just over 3%. And it after peaking at about 7%. We know that those things matter. We have opportunities, I think, to recognize and support kids throughout the year, to make sure that every kid has a place, whether it's academically, whether it's artistically, whether it's athletically. We want to make sure that there are opportunities for every single child to realize his or her potential. That's what we need to do now, so that they can find their passion and begin that forward movement throughout. And so we continue to offer these alternative and non-traditional programs to make sure that those kids, this is how we're recapturing those kids. And that's through our alternative programs. We have Tar River Academy now. We have an evening program for those students who need an additional type of educational setting. We have the HOPE program, so if a student is suspended from school, they don't have to be at home. They can serve their time, but also continue their education, where if their parents provide the transportation, we have a place and a teacher that serves those students, and their parents can, in fact, get them there. The teachers send the work, and even though they deal with the consequence, they also can stay focused on the academic side of it. At Tar River Academy, which is one of our huge success stories, over the last 2 years, we have been able to recapture about 100 and some odd students who were on the verge of either dropping out or who were in situations where they were getting ready to walk away from their educational opportunities. And so 52 kids graduated last year, 64 this year. Their graduation rate has more than doubled. 79% of the kids at Tar River Academy are graduating, when 3 to 4 years ago, that was about 25%. So we're excited about what that means, and we're saying, that when we say all, it has to mean all kids. And so we feel that we provided a great continuum academically for all kids, whether they're at the most severe needs or at the academically gifted end. We provide those kinds of programs, IB programs, AVID, the early college, which is a great program here on this campus. We provide those avenues for kids to be able to make it through. We try to tie in, again, every single thing that we do into, if you learn it in class, you should be able to see it in the real world. This is where our maintenance staff is engaged in instruction. They were installing a new chiller at Inglewood, so we decided to use them because I was amazed at the amount of math they used, the amount of science they used. And so they set up, through our operations team, an opportunity for those students to work side by side with our maintenance crew and actually see where they use math, where they use rulers, where they are using those skills every single day. This was the first round that we did of the junior foreman, and they were at Inglewood, and those students were amazed that, oh yeah, so that's why I have to know how to add, that's why I need to know how to use a ruler. That's fifth grade, so we're making great impressions on those youngsters. Our second priority is safe and orderly schools. We have been deliberate about it. This is the toughest area, I think, in public education right now because of social media and all kinds of things. Things can go very quickly, so we have tried to put in place those kinds of things where we are deliberately building a culture of civility, where we say that you can't go out into the world unless you know how to treat people. And that's important. You can be as smart as Einstein, but if you don't know how to treat people, you're going to miss opportunities. And so we've been very good about that. We've been focused on PBIS. This year, I want to recognize specifically Northern Nash High School, the only high school in the state to be recognized as an exemplar high school for the state. And so we're excited about the work that's going on there. We've tried to tie down our bullying protocols because that seems to be the area that continues. We struggle with trying to figure out how to make sure that all of those things are done and done quickly so that everybody understands that it's important, but that both sides of that equation require attention. I'm most impressed that in the last 2 years we have cut the long-term suspension rate in half, simply because we have focused in on those alternatives that I talked about earlier. In 2012-13, we had 74 long-term suspensions. And I'm going to switch to this other side. If you'll see where the yellow stars are, we had 74 long-term suspensions. If you look to the other star on the other side of the ledger, that last year we only had 34. So we were able to provide alternatives, and we have alternatives at the school as well. You can also look to see where expulsions, we actually went up one. But if because we provide so many options and opportunities for kids to do it right, when it comes to time to say you can no longer attend our schools, you've really gone through a very long stretch to get there. So where you see the green, you'll see that we reduced short-term suspensions. We reduced ISS placements in schools because I think we're focused in on trying to get kids to be in classrooms learning every single day. When we look at access control, thanks to additional monies appropriated by our commissioners and using lottery funds, we were able to harden all of our facilities with good safety features, where now you have to actually be buzzed into every single building. This year, we were the first district in the state to actually do an active shooter drill, where we actually walked through the entire process. It was, I was amazed when somebody looked at me and said, we have a fire drill every single month. When's the last time we had a fire in a school? And in the last year, there were over 70 shootings in schools across this country. So we need to be prepared in the event. We hope that it never happens, but we need to be prepared. And so we were the model for the state this year, and our staff did a great job of organizing that. And we used probably 60 different agencies or individuals in our district and across the state were pulled together to do this, and that model will serve to support the rest of our school systems around the state. Priority 3, high quality folk. We try very hard to recognize and support those individuals who work for us and who give their time to making sure that kids are well. Our principals of the year, our teachers, nurses of the year, our coaches of the year, we have all kinds of honors here that matter. We provide lots of support for them in terms of professional development, thanks to Golden Leaf Foundation. We have used $150,000 to try to change the teaching environment and the teaching culture with our staff by giving them access to good, high-quality professional development with the Friday Institute in terms of using digital resources in the classrooms. We have our school board continues to learn. They finished the Master Board 2 training last year. They received a national award, the Magna Award, which was a national award by the National School Boards Association. It was featured in the October American School Board Journal. And they worked closely with our commissioners and were able to negotiate a 4% increase in the local supplement for our teachers. And so with that, we've been able to increase our ability to recruit, our ability to retain, and our ability to go after some of our best teachers and at least be competitive in the environment. Trying to grow our own, we continue to offer an Aspiring Leaders program where we're trying to make sure that our folk that we do the best we can to provide opportunities for people to grow and stay in our district. And I talked about the teacher supplement, but I wanted you to kind of see where over the next 4 years how that 4% plays out. So this year our teachers got a 2%, next year they'll get 1%, and then following that they'll get an additional 1%. When you look at our tools, iConnect has been a game changer for us. We've learned an awful lot, but again, if you look at these pictures, learning looks different in our school system. It's not our classrooms anymore. When our students are in classrooms, it's about preparing them for the next generation. Yes, they're going to collaborate. Yes, there's going to be critical thought. Yes, they're going to be talking to each other. Yes, they're going to be putting their hands in it. Yes, they're going to make mistakes. And yes, they're going to be helping each other. When we came through school, collaboration was called cheating. And today we expect them to be able to do that, because when you look at engineering teams and things out in the larger world, that's what's expected of them. And so we have deployed nearly, when you look at it, actually nearly 12,000 devices. And when we started this, a lot of people say there's going to be a lot of stealing, we've not seen that. Most of them have either been broken or non-repairable, but we've been able to maintain that, and the loss has been very minimal, no more than we saw when we had just mobile carts in classrooms. We do have students who take them home, and we have a lot of students who don't take them home, and so that's been our challenge, trying to figure out how to balance that day user versus those who take them home. We're still working through that, but I can tell you we're getting better at it. The other piece is that we're going to be expanding, again, thanks to our school board and the use of E-rate funds, we're going to be bringing fiber to our schools, which means that our network will be a lot more robust and faster. But so that everybody, this is like the brain. We can see every single device in the district. We can see every single school in the district. We know when they're up. We know when they're down. And this was part of our learning last year as we rolled out the number of devices that we had. When you talk about transparency, we have implemented a strategy here called process and performance improvement. In the business world, they call that Six Sigma. In our world, it's kind of done through APQC, where we really try to find where waste exists and we try to stamp it out, where we try to find where inefficiencies exist and we try to fill the void. In the business world, they call it white space, and we try to absolutely capture that so that we can not spend a lot of time doing tasks or doing things that we don't need to do. But some of the outcomes were we had a 99% efficiency rating for our transportation staff, 99%. We had 22.5 on the vehicle inspections, meaning the safety. That's down from 42. The lower the score, the better. So that's different. And we were one of the top 10 in the East. We've worked on improving payroll procedures, contracting. We were able to reduce our contracting with outside vendors from weeks down to almost 10 to 15 days. Student re-enrollment, where do you go? And being real clear about that. Being able to manage and support and know our district inventory and doing those kinds of things. We've been able to identify specific savings in our budgets. We contracted our custodial staff this year. That's going to bring us a $450,000 savings. We've been able to do a school consolidation, which will bring us an additional projected $535. Contract reductions on technology and other things where we've been able to pull things in. The infrastructure upgrades that we were able to do it and save $45,000. And then we decommissioned mobile units. For the first time in years, we were able to knock out approximately 40-some mobile units out of use, meaning we're putting kids in buildings. That was a result of the redistricting that we did, so that we're now using our buildings more efficiently. So that's about $1.2 million. That's money we were able then to roll back in and to help us with class size and to support the agreement that was come up with between our school board and the commissioners for the local supplements that our teachers are receiving. So we had to make some decisions in order for that to happen, but we've been able to do that and do it with efficiency. And then our last one is community engagement, where there's constant conversation. We have a student advisory, and they tell me everything from how good or bad the lunches are to our parent advisory, to our teacher advisory. I meet with new principals on a regular basis. In fact, I'll be meeting with them this week. And then community conversations about topics. We want the door to be open, and we cannot do this without working together. We have many of our community partners, Boys and Girls Club, our CCIS. Those programs matter in terms of us being able to provide support to all of our students. We're building great partnerships you'll hear about in a minute. We're doing our very best to reach out to the community. One, our public relations staff is always speaking out through Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, the videos. We have a new app that you can download, and you'll hear more about that at the table tonight. And then we have our annual report where we try to share that information with the district. Where we can get better, we want to know. Where we're doing well, I believe we should celebrate. But most importantly, we want our students to be able to walk away from here understanding that we have, in fact, invested in them so that they can be successful at the end of the day. And so if I were to say that today the state of our schools is strong. We're improving. We have our challenges, but we recognize what they are, and we're going to continue working because there's not one child that we can say we should not make it, and it's not worth our best effort. And so as a team, we're going after it. As a school system, we're in the hunt. And very soon, I believe that we're going to be pushing through many of those barriers that have been barriers for us for years in terms of meeting those state issues. At this time, speaking of the wonderful things that are going on, I'd like to invite Dan Gerlach and Mr. Mark Sorrell from the Golden Leaf Foundation to come up, and they are going to be making a presentation. So I'm going to step out of the way. This is, again, an indication of the work that we're doing with our partners in the community.
Good evening. My name is Dan Gerlach. I'm the president of the Golden Leaf Foundation. We are proudly headquartered in Rocky Mount, proudly headquartered in Nash County. We're delighted to be here with you tonight. Dr. Jackson talked about some of the things I think we're most proud of to be corporate citizens here in this community, about what makes an excellent school system, a school system that serves the needs of our children, which is what its entire existence is about. The first thing is it approaches with the courage and humility to know that we're not going to rest on our laurels. He's talked for the last half hour about there's more work that needs to be done, and he and the school board, the county commissioners, and all the rest of us who live in the community with these children, the teachers who serve them, the administrators who run those schools, are all about it, and we're not going to rest. The second thing about an excellent school district is one that looks to partners within the community. And I think Nash-Rocky Mount's public school system is perfectly situated for this. Here you have a community college. I see Dr. Bill Carver, our good friend, who has us on speed dial with all the investments that we've made here, and one of the best industrial training programs across North Carolina. While we do business here in Rocky Mount, we do business all in all 100 counties. I will tell you, too, that the county commissioners, and I see Commissioner Davis, my good friend, here tonight, and he and his colleagues on a bipartisan basis are aggressive, and they're accountable in terms of recruiting companies to come here, helping the ones that are already here expand, and helping new entrepreneurs get started here in this community to be one that is second to none. But the third part, I guess, about the courage and humility that impresses us the most, and it's why we're here tonight, is about reaching out to the business community to really listen and have a business community that feels welcome and confident enough to listen to its school system, that the school system is really going to be open to what it needs, not only to succeed today, not in 10 years, but in 20 and 30 years. Right? If you look up and down 301 at our factories that hire literally thousands of North Carolinians, hundreds of people in our communities, if you look at the new companies that are springing out all about here, about the opportunities here as we are now in the capital region, you realize that we have to dedicate ourselves to tracking the best. Last year in April 2013, we gave a grant of $150,000 to help the professional development of the teachers. Tonight we announced our maximum grant award in our open grants program is $200,000. Tonight we announced that we are putting $200,000 in an award made earlier this month unanimously by our board of directors to workforce-aligned STEM centers at 2 middle schools here in this school system. Now, the middle schools is where this is the important thing. If you looked at those metrics he went through with you about the speed of my tobacco auctioneer speech tonight, you'll know that that's the area where we need some more improvement, where we need some work to do. And so they saw this and they reacted to it. They said, they reached out to the employer community and said, what do you need as private sector employers? We need young people who have dedication to task. We need to integrate not only the skills that they learn, the hands-on skills, their academic excellence, the accountability records through all the accountability we've been through, and their student records all in one place. And with these STEM labs in these 2 middle schools, this $200,000 is going to go to meet the needs of our employers. It's going to meet the needs, most importantly, of these young people, to give them the confidence that Nash young people can compete globally, because that's the world that they live in, that's the world that they're competing in. We are proud to announce tonight this grant at our maximum level of $200,000. We're going to present you a check. We're running late. I know I talked as fast as I can, but you invited me.
I'd also like to recognize a huge partner with us with STEM East. I think I saw Steve Hill somewhere in the. Will you please stand? He doesn't like to be recognized, but STEM East is a huge partner and has been a huge part of this grant with us. So we're excited about that. Now tonight we have a tremendous feast for you over in the other building with all of our CTE and partnerships on display. And we encourage you to go through and enjoy those to see what's actually going on. I often get questions about, do you offer this program or do you offer that program? Please go over and see the many, many programs that are available to our students, and not only that are available to them, but that they're taking advantage of. We want you to see that our students over there, you'll be impressed, and so we encourage you to do that. The last thing is there are copies of the annual plan available to you if you'd like one on the way out. And then finally, there was one other thing. Did I get it all? I did get it all. Thank you all very much. The ROTC students will guide you back to the auditorium. We appreciate your coming this evening.